Today we are joined by the team from Rentals United. We're joined by John and Matthew, who are going to be walking through everything that Rentals United do and what a channel manager is. So I'm going to hand you straight over in just a second, actually, because once again, I forgot we have a Q&A feature. So if you do want to ask any questions as we're going through, at the very top of your team's meeting, you should have the Q&A button up top. You can pop your questions in there and we can answer those at the very end of today's call. Before just now, I'm gonna be very quiet now. I'm gonna hand over to John and Matthew.
Thank you for joining us this morning. So my name's John. I'm part of the sales team at Rentals United. So I work directly with Elite Dynamics clients, and I've been with the company around about 2 years. So just to give a brief overview of my role, so I initiate the start of the integration with clients. So that's handling account configuration, ensuring that the requirements are met from a platform standard, and then I'll be moving you over to our onboarding team, okay? And that's where the channel connection process will begin. I'm just going to hand over to Matt, who'll just do a quick introduction himself.
Yeah, so hey everybody, my name is Matt. I'm our Director of Partnerships and Sales at Rentals United. I've been in the company for several years now, and in the industry for about 8 years now. So we're very happy to have Elite Dynamics. It's one of our greatest partnerships. It's one of our fastest growing partnerships. And we're here together with John to kind of give a little bit of insight, a little bit of education today, just a little bit about what we do, how we do it, and what are the goals of it, and how we align with our different property managers, especially in UK and with Elite Dynamics, to help them achieve their results. So yeah, kick it over to you.
Perfect. So just to give a bit of an overview of the agenda. So just going to give an outline of what Rentals United does, if you don't know already, and a bit of an overview of the partnership between Elite and ourselves. Then we're going to look at a couple of channels that are kind of top performing with our Elite clients at the moment. And then we're going to look at the onboarding process, okay? So what needs to be done in order to get you up and running on the platform, okay? So just following that, we're going to be looking at one important tool, the scaling tool. And then it's just going to be a short review of the UK performance for our clients, and then Elite Dynamics performance within Rentals United, okay? And then a quick case study, and then we're going to open up the floor for the Q&A, okay? So without further ado, so I'm going to move on to what is Rentals United, okay? So first and foremost, we are a distribution partner, okay? So what does that mean? It means that we facilitate the connections to the likes of Airbnb, Booking.com, Vrbo, within the STR industry, okay? So we act as a distribution partner for Elite Dynamics, okay? So I mentioned a couple of channels there. So Booking, Airbnb, Vrbo are the top performing channels that we offer. To give a bit of an overview of Rentals United and our integration with Elite Dynamics. So Elite is our PMS partner, okay? So in kind of summary, that means that they push over their inventory to Rentals United, and then we facilitate the distribution of those properties over to the channels like Airbnb and Booking.com, okay? So in terms of like the performance that we've got at the moment, so we've got, I think, just a couple of thousand units in total. We've seen in the past 2 years alone 100% increase year on year, the number of clients. And for me personally, I'm quite well versed in the integration. So I've got a very good understanding of what the requirements are, what the kind of full kind of overview of the integration, okay? So moving on. So the main two channels that we are going to be talking about today are Airbnb and Booking.com, okay? So the reason why we want to talk about these channels, because the top performing channels within the UK and globally, okay? So if you're not already using Airbnb, I'm sure you're probably aware that they have a global audience, okay? So it's a very diverse clientele, and we've seen like success like across our client base, and that's not just applicable to Elite Dynamic customers. You can see here, this is the UK performance of Airbnb for all our clients. That's, I think, on our last count, is it over 250,000 units, Matt?
It is, yeah. About worldwide as well.
Okay. And then, so not only we want you to be using Airbnb, but why do we want you to be using them? Okay. So people are a little bit skeptical about new channels, etc. But there is like mitigations in place that allow you to operate on the channel without these kind of issues. Okay. So you can introduce like parameters like guest reviews, the number of minimum guest reviews that you require in order for a reservation to be confirmed. And yeah, it's a simplified reservation management. Okay, so they deal with the first and last step of the reservation process. Okay, and that extends up to payment as well. So they are the merchant of record, which is worth highlighting. So when a reservation is made directly on Airbnb, you would just receive the revenue back minus the commission. Okay, so the commission, to give you an estimate and to have like transparency, we've got for UK, it's between 15 and 17% typically. Okay, that commission rate is organized directly with Airbnb when you sign up to work with them. Okay, following that, we've got booking.com. Okay, again, you're probably all aware of booking.com and its kind of mammoth impact on the industry. So just to echo kind of what Airbnb offers again, so it's a diverse clientele. It attracts different markets, different countries. Again, similar to Airbnb, it's a straightforward booking process. Like typically you can make a reservation within a couple of clicks. Again, that might not be an attractive feature for you if you're wanting to vet the clients more. So you can set up these policies within the Rentals United platform to kind of combat these issues. Okay. Not only that, with booking.com, they offer like promotions directly, which has led to like really increased visibility on the channel to attract more guests to your properties. Some of these promotions include last minute, early booker, mobile, etc. Okay. That's a bit of just a short overview, and just to kind of highlight there as well. So Airbnb account for 36% of the total reservations within the UK, okay, across Rental United users. Okay, so it's a hefty number. Okay, so just moving on to how we kind of work together. Okay, so from an upload perspective, so typically because a lot of the Elite Dynamics clients are not using Airbnb or booking.com, we would do a manual upload of the property. Okay, so that's 7 steps. So that's basic info, amenities, photos, etc. And that typically takes around 15 minutes per property. Okay, but that does kind of depend on your resources if you've got that information at hand. But typically 15 minutes. Okay, but there are a couple of features on the platform that kind of reduce that kind of manual labor. Okay, firstly, we've got the batch editing feature, which allows you to modify property information within a couple of minutes. Okay, so if you want to change a cancellation fee or check-in, check-out time across multiple properties, you can do that within a couple of clicks. Okay, and then we've got the duplication tool, which allows you to multiply the number. If you've got a multi-unit property, so you've got 10 of one type of unit, then it allows you to multiply that within a couple of clicks as well, so saving you that manual work. So it is fairly straightforward, and just to highlight, so I will be working with you directly during the configuration process. We normally take a couple of calls a week to run over any kind of issues or to kind of just give you a hand during this process. Okay, so following that, you would then be moved over to the onboarding team. Okay, so that's once the properties are ready and the information is all correct and you're meeting the requirements of the Rentals United platform. Okay, so from there, the account configuration ends, and that's where you begin the onboarding to the sales channels. Okay, so the onboarding, so the first call is with our onboarding team, myself, and a member of the Elite Dynamics team. Typically, it's Chris, who's there just to kind of highlight any features of the account or any kind of special kind of requirements that we need, etc. It's there. It's unlike any other property management system because they're on board with us. We've got your onboarder here, you've got Chris, and then you've got myself. Okay, so it's basically we're holding your hand up to the channel connection. Channel connections for like the likes of Airbnb and Booking.com typically can take anywhere from a couple of days to a maximum of 6 weeks. Okay, basically during the onboarding process, they'll outline steps that you need in order to get connected. Okay, but typically because Airbnb and Booking.com are fairly straightforward, it can take a couple of days. Okay. So once you've kind of established the channel connections and you're self-sufficient on the platform, that's when you will be handed over to our key account management team or our customer success team. Okay, so in this kind of part of the client process, you'll be typically taking a call maybe once a week, once a month. It really depends on your requirements and what you are wanting. So firstly, these calls are kind of to look at the account from a KPI perspective. Okay, so if you've come to Rentals United wanting to increase your occupancy, then this is where you would be working on these kind of KPIs and kind of trying to achieve like higher booking values, better average daily rates, etc. But typically, yeah, you'd be taking one call a week or 1 month. It really depends on what your needs are. Okay, so that's just a kind of brief overview, but I can estimate like from the onboarding and getting connected to the handover, it can take anywhere from 1 week to 6. Okay. Okay. Anything to add, Matt?
No, I think not right there. We can talk about a few more things about how we really get into the KPIs and things, but we'll talk about that in the next couple slides once we get down there.
Okay. So moving on. Okay, so just to highlight one tool that pretty much the majority of our clients are using. So this is the scaling tool. Okay, so this allows you to offset the commissions from the channels. Okay, so for example, if you're paying 15% commission on Airbnb, and we want to put a markup of 15% on the Airbnb channel. Okay, so that at the end of the day, when you're getting a reservation directly or indirectly from a channel, it means that the same amount of revenue will be coming back to you. Okay, so we've built this tool that allows you to have consistency across channels. Okay, so if you've got a commission rate of 15% on Airbnb and 16% on Booking.com, you can do this within a couple of clicks. Okay, it takes around about a minute. Okay, reduces the amount of time that you're spending on manual labor, and it allows you to adapt to new market conditions. Okay, so for example, I've got a client in Manchester who's just increased their rates because of Oasis. Okay, so it's pretty adaptable, and for that 5-day period, they're going to be making more profit because they're listening to the market. Okay. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so here's just a bit of an overview of the channel performance within Rentals United across the UK. Just highlighted 3 main channels that are highest performing. Okay, outside of these channels, I think the makeup is around about 5 to 10%, and that's like Expedia, Marriott, kind of niche channels that are not seeing like that many reservations, but seeing maybe a higher ABV. Okay. And I just want to contrast this with the channel performance within Elite Dynamics. Okay. So we're just looking at, I think it was a sample of 10 clients in total. So this is just over a couple of thousand units. Okay. So within the past year, from August to August, we've seen 3,353 reservations from Booking, as you can see there. But the bulk of the reservations are coming from Booking.com, followed by Airbnb, and we're seeing a small number of reservations for Vrbo. Outside of that, that's why the main focus I've had on Airbnb and Booking.com. It's because that's where the majority of the reservations are coming from. Okay. So moving on. Okay, so
let's kick back just 1 second, just to add on this. This is something that we really pride on ourselves with the account management team that John was talking about earlier, is for us to really sit down with each of our clients individually when we're looking at what are the goals of the company in terms of channel management. I think people sometimes think it's just a matter of connecting A to B. But the idea is that our team is here to help guide you to sit down and understand what your goals are. So you're seeing some numbers there in terms of average booking value, number of bookings, the booking window, number of nights, things like that, which may or may not be relevant depending on each of your cases. But in each case, what we like to do is, being a data-driven company, sitting down with each client, seeing what are they trying to do this year or even this 6 months, and say, are we trying to drive more a higher daily rate? Are we trying to just get more bookings to keep more openings? Is it because we're getting too many last minute bookings and we want to get more earlier bookings? So then we can look at using our data tools, using the information that we have, and to help guide them and say, okay, well, this channel is a good option for you. This channel is going to help align with your goals better. And like John was saying, that's what all part of our ethos from the beginning in the onboarding. John is a really great specialist of talking to this kind of stuff on a more personal level, and then moving it out, and that goes through the onboarding process and into the account management stage as well. So just so everybody knows.
Okay, so we're just going to move on to a case study from a client that joined first week of January. So configuration started in December and then was completed before the new year. Okay, so in the first week of January, this client then moved over to the onboarding team. Onboarding took 10 days in total. Okay, and that's to establish the connections to Airbnb and Booking.com. In total, number of bookings that they've received, and this is for 115 units. Okay, so it was 5,380 in total. 25% of their total reservations that came through were coming from Booking and Airbnb. Okay, so it's a significant chunk of their revenue in total. And one thing that we really pride ourselves on is that you don't lose your branding with when you start using Rentals United and connecting to these channels, because we understand that's a really key important fact to kind of drive your direct bookings as well, but also not lose that kind of USP that you might have. Okay, so whenever you're advertising on Booking.com or Airbnb, you can put in your company name, you can put in anything that doesn't redirect them to your own website, just as a little caveat there. But it's an important factor for us because it allows you to develop the brand and to kind of use these channels to leverage them, okay, to drive more reservations, to drive more occupancy, and yeah. So I'm sure you've probably got a couple of questions. So I'm going to open up the floor now to any questions. Okay.
Thank you very much, John. Just while anyone's wanting to pop any questions in the Q&A, I just think I'm just going to go back to a point you made about this scaling tool. I didn't know that was a thing for rentals, and it's really interesting. Most other sort of OTAs that people might be using, they're every time they're making a booking from them, they're effectively losing 15 to 20% of a booking straight up. But what you guys are saying is that you can actually stack the commission on top and you'll have no loss of what your rack rate is effectively.
Yes, exactly. So the pricing would come from Elite, and then during the onboarding process, once you've established what the commission rate is, then we can apply it on. Okay, so it's fairly straightforward process, and you can do that across all channels. Okay, you can do that on an individual basis as well. So not only can you do that just to offset the commission, but I've seen clients that are not getting a lot of reservations, a lot of revenue from a certain property, dropping that commission rate to drive bookings. Okay.
I do. Obviously, the majority of our customers at the minute are holiday parks. They've got caravans, they've got lodges, they've got really unique properties. Would you say that comfortably they could put their entire fleet on, so every caravan, every lodge, or is it more aimed at their sort of unique properties? If they've got tree houses, if they've got speciality units, or it work for everybody?
Yeah, and I can jump in there on that one. I think absolutely we can kind of handle any different type of inventory that they have, including setting up multi-units and things like that on the channel level if they want to. So the idea is also, like John touched on earlier, we're trying to leverage their branding. We want them to leverage also that for reviews. And sometimes setting that up on a channel level, our team is here to be experts on that and to be able to guide them and say, if you have this, we can stack the units into one on booking.com, for example, to be able to leverage better reviews, have your reviews in one place, all that kind of stuff. So depending on each of the different setups and how people are working it, our system is very adaptable for that.
Perfect. We've got a question in. I think it's more from our side, but you feel free to answer. Do the rates automatically come out from Elite? Are they synced straight up into rentals? Do they need to be done manually into your side, or do they just flow to the pricing?
Absolutely. So that's 100% is coming. You're going to control everything from Elite, apart from the initial setup. In this case, for some of the content, because we do push content and everything to create the listings on the channels. But apart from the initial setup, the idea is that we kind of take a back step there, and the day-to-day operations are happening within Elite.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I imagine, I'm not imagining, I don't know, that it will run out on a job queue, so they'll be kept up to date, so no one's going to be, you're not going to be cut short or anything, and then obviously it'll go through your scaling tool and any prices allocated with extra commissions on extra uplift on top as well. So it should be pretty hands off from that point of view. From EliteParks, you would just do your pricing as normal, and everything would flow out to your other channels, which is fantastic. How do you use your data and our customer data to increase earlier bookings without reducing the ABV across different grade codes?
Yeah, so it's always a balance, right? And it's a game of playing what you can accommodate for and what you're really looking for. So the idea is that you're not sending us, the channels are not supplementing, direct bookings, or you're taking a hit by taking a booking on an Airbnb or booking.com, right? The idea is that we're balancing between the different channels. So it's looking at the data and saying, okay, yes, an Airbnb may have, in this case, a lower booking value, and a booking.com has a higher one. But is that really the average, or is that, something that's always happening? And maybe it's a thing of, doing some revenue management there and saying, if we're doing this and we're seeing that we're getting more bookings, but the pricing is lower because the booking value is lower. Well, maybe we try upping the pricing a little bit on Airbnb. it's all the game of which levers that you're pulling and
Yeah.
kind of going back and forth from them. Yeah.
Yeah, are you looking for occupancy or a higher ABV at the end of the day? And that might change depending on the time of year, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. If you just want your park full for like November, for instance, where it's always a pretty hard sell. So I think we will take the opportunity to wrap up. That was very informative. I learned some things this morning as well, which is always great. I want to thank you both for joining us and everyone else for taking the time to come along. And we'll see you all again next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Cheers. Bye.